Hi everyone, welcome to Language Easy and another book review that I decided to share with you today. I felt I had to share it with you. I'm inviting you to discuss with me this novel. Let's just prepare some tea and let's get into this great story. So Life of Pi is my latest read. I finished it just some weeks ago. Before reading the novel, I had already watched the film twice before it, but as it turned out, the experience of reading the book was totally different from watching it on screen. The book tells us about a boy called Piscine. He actually prefers to be called just Pi. He lives with his family in India in the city of Pondicherry. His father owns a zoo, so Pi grows up in sort of a wildlife atmosphere, well, zoo wildlife. He has an elder brother, Ravi, but Pi himself is quite different from other children and I'd say people in general. Apart from being a vegetarian, Pi decides to embrace 3 religions at once. So he is a Hindu by birth and then decides to become Christian and Muslim as well. He explains it quite simply. He just wants to love God, and it doesn't really matter to what religion and how many religions you belong to, does it? But one day the life of the family has to be changed completely when Indira Gandhi declares the so-called emergency in the country, which by the way happened in the 70s in India. If you're curious about Indian history or history in general, I really recommend you to check out this to this day controversial period in Indian history. So father doesn't like it, makes a decision to take his wife and sons and leave their homeland for Canada for the sake of their own future, and he has to sell his zoo. The family travels aboard a ship with some other animals. They are transported with them to another zoo that they're going to open in their new country. Unfortunately, a storm occurs one night and the whole ship sinks. The only person to survive this shipwreck is Pi, who escapes in a lifeboat, which saves some other lives as well. There's a hyena, zebra, orangutan named Orange Juice, and a tiger whose name's Richard Parker. Being on a board with 3 animals is rather frightening, so Pi decides to build a little raft for himself next to the lifeboat, just to stay relatively safe. Within just a few days, the hyena becomes crazy and kills the poor zebra. Its next prey becomes the orangutan Orange Juice. It is Richard Parker that decides to put an end to this crazy hyena and kills her. And that's it. That's how our 2 main characters of the novel are left alone in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on a lifeboat. The second part of the book basically shows and tells us about all that struggle that Pi has to come through, living next to the tiger that he's trying to tame during all those months they spend on their lifeboat until he is finally saved. You can imagine how wild, scary and frightening that period for Pi was. Almost no water, no food. Well, hundreds of thousands of turtles and fish get killed by him. And remember, Pi was a vegetarian, so it was hard for him to kill those animals, not just physically but also psychologically. Well, it was hard in the beginning. Some months later, they come to an island full of algae and meerkats. Richard Parker and Pi regain strength and almost come back to life when Pi discovers that the island is actually not a safe place. Plus, he finds some human teeth on a tree, so he decides to leave the island and come back to the ocean. But not alone, he takes his friend Tiger that, as he says and believes, helped him survive and not to give up. The two spend many other days on their lifeboat, the days that almost killed them both, but fortunately one day their lifeboat comes to the coast of Mexico. That part, to be honest, for me personally was the saddest. That part when Pi becomes so shocked that he starts weeping on seeing his friend, his tiger, Richard Parker, leaving him so unceremoniously, as he says. Without even looking at him, he just turns his back to Pi, makes his way to the jungle, and was never seen after that. After that, Pi is saved by some people and then is interrogated by the others, who ask him what happened, how the ship sank, and the most important, how did you survive? They hear the whole story, which they hardly believe, and ask Pi to tell them the truth. After failing to convince them that it was in fact the true story, Pi decides to change it, and it turns out that instead of the hyena, it could be a cook. The orangutan was Pi's own mother. The zebra was a Taiwanese sailor with a broken leg, and the tiger was Pi himself. The investigators believe more and like more this second story without animals. Pi replies that it doesn't matter to him anymore if people are going to believe his first story or not, because nothing and nobody is gonna give him back his family. He has lost everything except for his belief in God. The story is breathtaking, isn't it? I wasn't actually planning to make any book reviews and filming this video, but after watching some of the book reviews here on YouTube on the life of Pi, I changed my mind. I was, to be honest, quite surprised that in a huge number of those book reviews, many people were saying how hard it was to read Life of Pi, how it is repetitive, violent. So many people really underrated, as I felt it. Why is it so? After all, this novel has sold more than 10 million copies worldwide, as the Wikipedia informs us. In my opinion, those people who do not like the novel don't look at it in a wide perspective, so to speak. For a great number of people, it's just another survival story full of struggle, hunger, and death. But in reality, there's so much more to that. There are a lot of theories, by the way, that you can check on the internet about the animals, the island, and those many other little parts from the book. And actually there is someone saying that the name of the boy Pi means something too. And even just to think of that question that Pi has made, which story do you prefer, with animals or without animals, makes you really think. really, which one? Which one would I prefer? Which one would I believe, and why? For me, personally, the novel turned out to be so much deeper than I'd expected, even as I've already told you after watching the film twice before reading it. And if you ask me how I would personally reply to those questions about the animals, if the story was true or not true, I would say that that thing is not even important. And what is important is actually how faith is represented in the novel. Firstly, in the novel we see a boy of 3 religions who just wants to love God without any rules to follow. Faith is usually said to help us live. Living when you believe in something is easier. I think Richard Parker, the tiger, may represent the faith in general, God, call it whatever. It is the tiger, faith, God that saves by repeating his words. If the tiger was not there with him, he wouldn't even be able to survive. Well, but anyway, it's just my interpretation, my thoughts. Tell me in the comments about your thoughts, about your interpretation of this novel. Did you like it or not, and why? The novel, written by Jan Martel, a Canadian author who has, by the way, won the Booker Prize for this novel. And there are in fact some other books written by this author that I have not read yet, unfortunately. And just coming to the conclusion, I'd say that Life of Pi has many chances to become the read of the year for me personally. Apart from thinking, this novel has made me more interested in many other topics. To be honest, I started to read more about India. I actually became interested in learning Hindi, and in fact all these topics about animals now appeals to me more and more every day. In fact, my current read now is this book, this very old book that has been on my bookshelf for years, the book by Gerald Darrell that I'm really enjoying. And I'll tell you even more, Life of Pi made me go and visit a zoo last week and search for all those characters from the book. And in fact, I saw them all except for the tiger. Richard Parker decided to unceremoniously hide in the bushes during all of my visits, so I couldn't see him. Before reading Life of Pi, this topic of zoos was quite, controversial for me. Being a vegetarian, I didn't think of it as a good place for animals, but this book, along with the book that I'm reading right now by Gerald Darrell, changed my personal opinion about zoos. Thank you so much for watching this video, friends. I really hope you enjoyed it. If it's so, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like my videos and would like to support my channel, you can get this beautiful, this gorgeous postcard I've painted myself. It was a total inspiration after reading this novel. You can get it right now. If you like it, just go to the video description, follow the link, and you will get it. Let's read some more good books and see you in another book review.